How, I mean, you've got, I mean, obviously, it's anything you do more than once, you become a little bit jaded, but you've got a great sense of just the world that we live in, I think. I mean, granted, you've seen a lot of the negative in the world from people fleeing, I would imagine. But I think you've also seen some of the fantastic positives that we have to offer. Not in a sense of like, hey, we have a lot to offer in America, but I'm just saying in like, let's leave country names out of this. Just humanity, people needing help from where they're at, and you doing the best you can to bring them into a spot and into a culture that they can thrive in. How has that been for you as far as staying passionate? Throughout the years, is it easy because you can see, I bet you the payoff is really great when you do bring a family in and you really get to help them and you see that, I mean, they're essentially all in on their, especially if they're coming from the Middle East, even from, through the Mexican border, or however south that they are. It's essentially an all in on their life. Hey, I want to start over with my family, whether it be a mother and this is for my child. You can come up with whatever crazy story that we've all heard that pulls on the heartstrings. But I would imagine, as hard work as it is, how has it been easy keeping that passion going because you've had those just, man, what a cool moment,
I think the thing that drives me is the resilience and the vigor that comes from the refugees that we work with. While they have faced things that seem absolutely impossible, they've had to flee their homeland. I've talked to school teachers who had to leave work, called their family, said, meet me at such and such a place, were headed out, and left their country.
Like just that day.
That day.
Made the decision.
Because somebody in their family got killed because of their political beliefs or their religion or their ethnicity.
Yeah.
And they had to leave with whatever they were wearing. Ended up traveling a road that was really long, ended up in another country as a displaced person, found the United Nations to help them apply for refugee status. Mm-hmm. And through this whole thing, which takes years,
right,
end up coming to the United States. And by the way, a very small percentage of people who are in this displaced position are ever allowed to come to the United States through the State Department.
Interesting.
So it's not a huge percentage at all. It's like less than 1%. Of people who are actually allowed to migrate to the U.S. Other countries like Sweden and England and Germany, Australia and Japan and Iceland also receive refugees.
Right.
Until this last year, the United States received more refugees than the other countries. This past year, Canada eclipsed us.
It's really bottlenecked this last year.
So things really slowed down.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Even though we're currently in the biggest refugee crisis since the end of World War II. So the war that caused the displacement in 1944 displaced all kinds of people as political lines were being drawn in Europe.
Right.
People were being displaced from the Middle East and North Africa. That was considered the worst refugee crisis of all time until about 2015. Because of the wars in the Middle East and the things that were happening there.
Everybody's just got to branch out. There's so much negativity
so like
going on.
65 million people displaced from their homes. So that includes internally displaced people, people who had to flee but stayed in their own country, people who fled to another country. That's about 25 million, 23 million maybe. And then it's recently like 80,000 people came to the United States in like 2014.